Hi people, I'm gonna break down this explosion I put up on YouTube a while back. I won't go into much depth, so do pause the video to copy whatever numbers you want. Now let's start with this fireball material. The key to making it work is to use this dynamic parameter, lerp this smoke over the fireball. There are no animated textures, so it's really easy to do. You just have to go out there and find some basic textures for it. So let's see. I made a less complex version of the explosion, so it's easier to show. Just put it down to 25% simulation speed. So you can see there are a couple of components playing off here. Let's start off with the impact explosion, and I'll just break it down. We'll keep it at 50% so you can see what's happening. So I have a pretty long lifetime, just so the smoke will still be there when everything else is played. And the sizes are not too big, but okay. I mean, you can always scale them as you like. And there's just a little bit of velocity going to the sides, so they're not completely static. And there's some color. And in my material, I connected the vertex color to the flames, so they don't affect the smoke color at all. I set up a material instance for that. And we have, let's see, the alpha. Just gonna remove these old curves. We're gonna have a look at this curve. Nothing fancy pants. Yeah, so it just fades, plain and simple. And then I have some rotation to it, some initial rotation, just to give it a random rotation. And then I have a really low rotation rate, since it's a pretty big explosion, so you don't want the smoke to be spinning around wildly, because that just looks odd. And here's the dynamic parameter going into the particle system. So I've actually got this in the curve editor here. So you can see it has a nice little bend. And I added some camera offset, so the explosion, the smoke will come a bit closer to the camera since it's fading towards the ground. And there's some size scale by time and some size by life. And the point of having both size by time and size by life is since they have different lifetimes. If I would only scale by life, some of them you wouldn't even see the beginning scale of it, since I have to then match it for the ones that live longer as well. So that's why I have two of them, and I'll show you why. So this is the scale of the explosions in the start, and it fades over the first 0.2 seconds, and then it just calms down towards 1 second. And then I have the size by life, which actually scales them up a little bit over the whole lifetime, which means they have a rapid increase in size, and then just lets the size by life take over, since it's just panning out here. So that's a neat little thing to do. And then we can add the flash. It's really simple. It's just a sphere, or not a sphere. It's it's this texture just expanding rapidly. It has a really short lifetime, and a pretty big size, and the alpha and color is not much to think about. And the size by life, you have it growing quite big, just so it flashes. Flashing is cool. And then we can look at the dust pillars. So we have this middle one, and then we have these sideways ones, and then we have this one that follows along with the middle one, just to make it a bit wider at the beginning. So the middle one, the important thing with this one, since it's a pretty, I scale this this particle as a rectangle and not as a square. So I need to push it up with velocity in order to not have it just scale like this, which is bad. So I just push it up a bit as well as scaling it. So I have this scale by time here as well, and you can see these values here, and we can add this size by life as well. And since it's a rectangle, you have the both x and y value to take into consideration. So we got the say size scale by time, and it's growing quite rapidly over the first 0.2 seconds, and then it just continues to grow in height, and then it kind of shrinks down since you want it to fall back to the ground, the dust. And it's also expanding in width, so you have its x value over life going bigger and bigger and bigger. So as you can see on the explosion, it kind of flattens out. And the same goes for the middle wide as well, and the sideways ones. And basically what I did with the sideways ones, it's basically the same thing as the middle one. We have this velocity over life as well. I better take that one as well. Let's see. Yeah, and we're taking the Z value and diminishing it quite quickly, since we don't want it to be flying off. It's not a space rocket, so make sure it stays. And we have some funky values. Yeah, and then we'll have a look at the sideways ones. They basically work in the same way. They don't have a lock axis because I don't want them to be locked like that. And instead of having rectangle, I have velocity, and then I have a location sphere, and I just turn off the Z so they won't go downwards. So I don't really need them to go downwards. And I spawn them only on the surface, and I let the sphere modify their velocity. And then I have I have a really low velocity here because I mainly want them the sphere to give them a direction. And then they have the size by life as well, and size scale by time. And yeah, the sphere is really the key on that one. And then we have some flying shit, and we have some flying stuff, some small particles, some debris flying away. Kinda adds a bit as well. Nothing really special here. This one just shoots them up. It's hard to see since I think they're pretty brightly colored. We can just increase their size for a moment. Yeah, so you can see they're all flying upwards, following the middle dust pillar. And then we have this one, and it's using a sphere as well, and I cut the C there as well, the Z, and then added a uniform value where you can do here. I added a uniform value so it randomizes their velocity a little bit. And they also have some acceleration to give the particles a little bit of weight. We can slow it down a little bit. And obviously it's a texture that you need to cut with the sub UVs, and really basic texture because I just wanted the feel of the particles. And then we have another impact which is stretching and going a bit upwards. It's placed with a location just to be a little higher than the first impact. So you can see it just flashing over here. And then we have some, let's see some of their values. Set to rectangle, and you have some initial sizes, some size by life. It's also using the dynamic. It's pretty much the same as with the other impact. The initial location pushed up 200 units. And then we have the flying fire. It just gives off some burning debris as well. You could add trails to that if you want, but I didn't do it. And I guess that's it. And if you have any questions, just post them on YouTube and I'll try and answer them as best as I can.